Through the darkness of future past the magician longs to see. One chance out between two worlds. Fire, pod with me. Hello everyone, and welcome to the most recent episode of our Twin Peaks podcast. Today we're going to be talking about part 15 of The Return. If you're not caught up, I don't know what you're doing. Get out, watch the episode, get all caught up. We're going to be discussing it in detail here. My name is Vinny. With me, as always, is my friend Steven. Say hi, Steven.
Hey.
And let's get into it, dude.
Man. Before we start, what did you think of this episode?
Pretty good. It started off feeling a lot like the old series, and I think that was just because of who it started out with.
Yeah.
Which was kind of nice for a change. Especially with what happened in that scene. I had like a lot of mixed emotions at the very start of the episode.
Yeah.
It was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to go ahead and discuss it, I'll let you.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing we see is we're back in Twin Peaks, and we see our good pal Nadine walking on the side of the road with her golden shovel in hand. Something that I noticed, and this might have just been because they like reversed the image, or maybe I was looking at it different, but if I'm not mistaken, I could have swore that people were driving on the left side of the road as she was like walking.
Ooh, you know, I'm going to be honest, because like during these first few shots, I should have rewatched it. I was eating pasta.
Not pie?
No.
Come on.
We were going to bake pie, but I had a hankering for cookies. So we baked cookies instead.
Nothing wrong with that. Yeah, I might be making it up, and again, it might be, if I did notice that and it was correct, it might have been just because they mirrored the image of her walking. But I was like, that is interesting. I'm probably just reading too much into it. But anyway, we see her walking, and she approaches Ed at Big Ed's pump. And basically, she's had this revelation, right?
Mm-hmm.
That she needs to finally shovel herself out of the shit. And to her, that means letting Ed be free. She basically says, I know that you and Norma are in love, and that I've been selfish by, trapping you. I've manipulated you. And she's like, you can be free. It's all good.
And what I think was interesting about this scene was it was the first time we saw Ed and Nadine together in The Return.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And because like every time we had seen Nadine before, it looked like she might have they might have gotten a divorce,
right?
And she had moved on, and like was like falling for Jacoby maybe, which is kind of funny, but
right.
It was kind of interesting to see that 25 years on, she and Ed still have the same dynamic that they had.
Right. Yeah, because he has this, I wouldn't say it's like a fatherly type of like presence to her, but a little bit, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and I think that we have the idea that it's fatherly because of when Nadine became a high schooler for a hot minute.
Right. Yeah. Fell in love with our boy. What was his name? Mike
Nelson.
Mike Nelson. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love Mike Nelson. Ship them so hard. No, yeah, because he basically tells her, like, Nadine, you're going to regret saying this tomorrow. She's like, Ed, I thought about it the whole walk over. And so they part ways, I guess. And she just walked back. She walked back to the shop, probably.
Yeah, the whole way. Maybe she thought about it twice on her way back and was like, fuck.
Yeah. So I really didn't know what to expect then. You're right, though. Like, the first few minutes, first like 10 minutes of the show was such a roller coaster. Because the following scene, we're at the Double R,
Mm-hmm.
and
Which
Go
I
ahead.
I went there last weekend. I
Right,
went to the Double
your
R
second
Diner.
time there, right?
Yeah. And first of all, that parking lot that we watched Big Ed park in is hell. I hate that parking lot.
Is it always
but-
packed? Is it small?
Well, it's small. It's not always packed, but getting like exiting that parking lot, there
Yeah.
is the entrance and the exit are the same little thing.
Oh,
And
okay.
if you're turning right out of there, you either have to go right into a right turn only lane, or you have to like shoot traffic, which is always coming on that street,
Oh man.
and it's just not fun. I hate that parking lot.
Let me ask you real quick. A little bit of a side note. Is it? Because I've never seen exactly where it's located when I've been there. Is it like when you pull into like where all the rest area stuff is, or is it kind of like deeper into the town?
It's deeper, but not much deeper.
Got it. Yeah, I mean,
so-
there's not. It's a small town, so
Yeah, yeah. You basically, as soon as you get off the freeway off of I-90 there, you just drive forward for a little bit. You don't turn anywhere, and then it just comes up on the right after like a grocery store.
Oh, okay.
Beautiful little town.
Yeah. If you're ever in Washington, we recommend going, folks. All right. So, yeah. So, getting back on track, we were at the Double R, and we see Big Ed's truck pull up, and oh man, the way that they use, the Otis Redding song, what is the title of it? I forget. I've been loving you too long. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, because like it's this big like triumphant moment of like Ed showing up, and he kind of gets shot down by Norma when he approaches her.
Yeah.
Because she sees her current man walk up from behind. And
Walter.
Walter, bitch ass Walter.
Yeah. He says things have changed, Norma, and we can finally be together. And Norma like grabs his shoulder and is like, Ed, Walter's here.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like just not a lot was said, but like you just like felt his heart just get crushed.
Yeah. Yeah, he sits down at the counter, and the waitress, I don't think it was Shelley, but she was
It was
like,
Shelley, yeah.
It was it Shelley?
Yeah.
Okay. Like, what can I get you, Ed? What does he say? Coffee and a cyanide tablet?
He says cup of coffee, and then she walks away, and he just stares, and he says, and a cyanide tablet.
Poor guy. Yeah, I felt so bad because like the whole series. Well, I mean, at least from what we've seen of him, it's just been very tragic for poor Ed not being with Norma.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. Norma and Walter are having their conversation, and Norma basically tells him that she wants to, because he's trying to expand the business of Norma's Double R, right?
Yeah, he, well, because they've already moved on to 6, soon to be 7 franchises, and Norma has part ownership, but they sit down and she says that she is exercising her right to allow Walter to buy her shares of the business,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
he says is a big mistake.
Right.
But
Yeah, because it just, and even the one conversation that we saw with them before, you just saw that there was a fundamental difference in values between them.
yeah,
Norma is very much happy being in Twin Peaks and doesn't really see fit to like own this huge franchise, and wants to keep things at home. And you can just you hear them arguing, and then we see Ed just sitting there with his eyes closed. What do you think he was doing? What do you think Ed with his eyes closed meant?
Maybe meditating. That's a good question.
That's a good answer though, because David Lynch is very pro meditating.
And,
I don't know if that would leak into the show at all, but he talks about it all the time.
Yeah,
Says that's where he gets his ideas from.
And that was actually kind of where I was going to base my answer. I was going to say it's hard to get into Lynch's head, but that would be kind of my first thought is meditation.
Yeah,
just trying to like put himself at ease and like
right.
You know.
But you could tell he was observant and like listening to what was happening, because as soon as Walter walked past, he kind of got a slight smile on his face.
Yeah.
Like as Walter was about to walk out the door, and then the Otis Redding song kicks back in, and you're like, oh man.
Yeah.
And Norma's hand comes over. Go ahead.
Well, what I loved was when Walter asked why she was selling her shares. Mm-hmm. She's like, well, I've got a family to take care of, and he's like, you told me you didn't have a family, and she's like, oh, I do, and it's wonderful. Mm-hmm. And so like as soon as she said that, I was like, you know, Norma's looking out for us big Ed heads, you know.
Dude, it was pretty tough for a little bit to be a big Ed head, but it finally paid off, didn't it?
Oh, it sure did. And when they share that kiss, and the song was perfect. I love the use of that. But as soon as that faded out, I was like, that scene alone could have been the return, the entire series.
Yeah.
And I think I would have been all right. No,
that's so true. Like I can't think of a more satisfying feeling than watching that scene, because like Norma comes over, like puts her hand on Ed, and then they embrace and kiss, and he asks her to marry him, and she says yes.
Beautiful.
Yeah, amazing. Unfortunately, the rest of the episode isn't that heartwarming and touching, but I'm totally with you though. Like if that was the whole thing, that that was the only thing we got, I'd be perfectly fine with it. All right, so gosh.
We get some right after that. We just get electrical scratching, which is just like, well, all right, here comes some shit.
Yeah, that's why I'm like kind of I don't know how to, because it's such a crazy transition, and everything that happens afterwards, like it's hard to process. Like I was just frantically writing stuff down, like so much is happening. What is going on?
Yeah.
So yeah, we see Scale Coop driving at night, as we've seen him. I don't know. That was like at the beginning of the series. We saw like a car driving at night, and there's something very spooky about that.
Well, not the least bit of American Woman being slowed the fuck down and just being played over it the first time.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. No. It was real spooky. Very much. There's like a scene in Under the Skin that reminds me of that. Just there's something very. It's shit's about to get spooky basically. So he pulls over to the side of the road when he's driving out in the woods, and we see that he's at the abandoned gas station that we've seen, or convenience store that we've seen in episode 8, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's greeted. I don't know if you want to say greeted, but there's one of the dirty bearded men is outside, and they don't shake hands or hug. That would have been cool. That would have been a nice little touch. Give him a little peck on the cheek.
Yeah.
But
like kind of like whispering, like real, like, how you doing? It's good to see you.
Yeah. Good to see you again.
Very, very good to see you again, old friend.
So yeah, Coop is led into the abandoned gas station, and as they're walking in, they kind of start flickering in and out.
Mm-hmm.
As we've seen when people are about to like, I don't know, transport into another dimension, right? Like,
yeah,
that's kind of how Andy flickered out in, what, 2 episodes ago? Or last episode?
That was last episode, yeah.
Last episode. Yeah, so they walk in there, and again, just a lot of stuff was happening. It was real spooky in there. Real dark. And he sits down, or he like walks up to one of the dirty bearded men that's like in the corner of a room, and he says, like, I need to speak to Philip Jeffries, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so he like
I think it's about this time that like it cuts to one of the guys from Fire Walk with Me that was in the room above the convenience store.
Yeah.
That guy with the clay mask that's got the long nose on it.
Right.
We cut to like a shot of him for like a hot second, and then we cut away.
And he's like, if I'm not mistaken, that's the scene where it's kind of like shaking and kind of scary, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, again, real spooky. But anyway, the dirty bearded man that he approaches like flickers some light. He like turns some like really bright light on, and then another man like follows him or like leads him into a separate room. And as they're doing this, like, it's kind of hard to visual or like to describe, but as they're walking, like, the rooms are like partially transparent, like with the woods, like you see trees.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, just kind of further solidifying that they're not in a real place, I think.
Yeah.
But anyway, he's led out to what looks like a motel. He's outside now, and he approaches room number 8.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a woman out there who says she'll unlock the door for you. She says it in reverse, of course.
Yeah. And when I first saw this girl, because she's covered in shadows,
yeah,
I was like, is that a young Sarah Palmer, maybe? And then she turned and had a real bird nose, and I was like, no, not Sarah Palmer.
She had a real bird nose.
It was a big old nose.
Yeah.
I was like, that is not Sarah Palmer's nose.
So yeah, do you want to explain or describe what we saw when he walks into the room that she opens up for him?
Well, I was really hoping that Bowie was able to record these scenes before his unfortunate death, but Cooper walks in, and there's essentially like a boiler, like a giant boiler in the room, and it's got a weird orb coming off of it, and I if I'm not mistaken, when we did the Bowie flashback in the last episode,
yeah,
when he says, "Who do you think that is there?" it was redubbed by the same guy that is the voice of Philip Jeffries as this big old tea kettle.
Oh, yeah.
So, essentially, though, Cooper walks in and like begins talking to Philip Jeffries, and who is the giant tea kettle, and he says, why'd you tell Ray to kill me? And Philip Jeffries talks kind of cryptically this whole scene, and he says, I called Ray, and that's how he responds, and he's like, yeah, why'd you tell him to kill me? And it's almost like Cooper is asking questions to a thing that won't give him a direct answer.
Mm-hmm.
And so he begins, he asks him about the last time they saw each other, which was from the scene from Fire Walk with Me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when Philip Jeffries recognizes him as Cooper. But he says, when we saw each other, you told me that we weren't going to talk about Judy. Who's Judy, and why won't we talk about her? And Philip Jeffries says, you already know Judy.
Yeah, or like you've already met her, or you already know her. Yeah.
He doesn't refer to Judy as a gender. He just says, you've already met Judy.
Oh, okay.
And Cooper is confused, like we all are.
Mm-hmm. And he's like upset. He's like agitated. Like, who is Judy? Like, he's not having it.
No, not a fan. So finally, Philip Jeffries says, "Let me spell it out for you." And some numbers start coming out of his little kettle, and Cooper starts writing them down, and then the phone starts ringing, and he's like, "Who is Judy?" And like the scene kind of gets more and more like hectic, and Philip Jeffries starts fading away, and Cooper reaches to answer the phone, and all of a sudden he's in a phone booth rather than in the room with Philip Jeffries.
Yep.
Steven, let me ask you, who do you think Judy is?
Oh man, I really don't know. The one, I can't take credit for this. I saw somebody talking about this. Somebody suspected that maybe the little girl that we saw in episode 8 in the flashback sequence towards the end of the episode isn't actually Sarah Palmer, and that could be Judy.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if I buy that. But I really don't know. That's what's so intriguing about this series is, and I know we've said this multiple times, is like it's almost over and we still don't know who a lot of characters are, like Judy and Billy, and I don't know. Do you have a theory as to who it is?
Well, like you said, I can't take credit for this theory, but I've seen this bouncing around for a while.
Yeah.
Is maybe Judy was Philip Jeffries' nickname for Garland Briggs because of Judy Garland and David Lynch loving him some Wizard of Oz.
Ah.
So Julie Garland Briggs, perhaps, and
wow.
like
that'd be crazy.
And for me, what kind of once again drove that into my brain was the fact that he didn't call Judy by gender; he just kept saying Judy.
I could definitely see that. That's an amazing theory. Man. I'd buy that because, I mean, that's who Evil Coop's looking for. Did you write down or did you see the digits that he kind of emitted?
All I saw was
there was like a 4,
8, and a 5. Those were the 3 that I saw, but I didn't try to rewind or anything.
Yeah, me either. I don't know. There's so many numbers at this point in the series. I don't know how
they all could correlate.
Yeah, and how we can all keep up because it's like we've already got the coordinates, so I don't know if we need to have such a focus on that now. You know?
Right.
But who knows? I could be wrong. So yeah, once Scale Coop's at the phone booth, we see Richard approach him, gun in hand. Richard Horn, and he must have followed Scale Coop there after Scale Coop killed Ray and the boss
Renzo.
man, Renzo. Yeah. Oh man, poor Renzo.
Rip Renzo.
Yep. So yeah, Richard appears and like has a gun drawn, and he's like, "I recognize you. My mom had a pic of you." So essentially, Audrey had a picture of Coop that Richard had remembered and recognized him to be, an FBI agent or the feds or whatever.
Yeah,
so
you're FBI.
He's like, "What are you doing?" And then, of course, evil Coop fucking knocks his ass out or takes the gun away.
Rocks his shit.
Don't threaten me again. Do you think he says, "Don't threaten me again," and because Scale Coop is like kind of, you can tell he's a little intrigued that like Richard recognizes him as Coop.
Yeah.
Do you think he's like, that's my baby boy, I can't kill him?
Maybe.
Do you think that's why he feels some sympathy towards him? Or
he tells him to get in the truck and that he'll explain on the way.
Right. So they're about to have, I think, some good father-son bonding.
Right. I think you're right.
Man. I certainly wasn't expecting that, because I guess when we saw that scene with Renzo and Ray and everyone, I thought there was going to be some sort of confrontation there, but kind of in the heat of it, I completely forgot about Richard, you know?
Yeah.
So he, the last thing we see from Scale Coop is he sends a text and it says Las Vegas ?
Yep. If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Has Diane already received that message?
Oh, you know what? I think you might be right. I feel like I remember that.
So, once again, that kind of plays into the whole, this isn't a linear narrative.
Yeah. You know, I wonder if somebody will ever give this the, like the Pulp Fiction treatment, where they kind of put it back into order, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd want to experience it like that, but it would be interesting.
Right.
Just to try and make it as cohesive as possible. So yeah, I think you might be right, because I was going to ask, do you think that text could have been to Jennifer Jason Leigh or Tim Roth? But I don't think so. I think...
Oh, I can't wait to talk about them.
Yeah, I know you loved their scenes. But I think you're right. I think it was probably to Diane. So after that... Oh, yeah, we should say that after they drive away, the gas station kind of like flickers out and then disappears.
Yeah. Once Mr. C, the Slide Man, and Lil Dicky get in a truck together.
Little Dicky. Oh, shit. So we go back to Twin Peaks, and a man walking with a dog in the forest is seen, and we know that man to be... Do you know who it was?
No. Was I supposed to?
Mark Frost.
Oh, man. Really?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Now that I'm thinking of his face, I'm like, oh, my God. How did I not see that?
Yeah, a nice little role for him in there.
He had a little Boston Terrier with him and everything. 10 out of 10 Mark Frost.
Yeah. So he's walking through the forest, and I apologize in advance because this scene was kind of hard. Without subtitles, was very hard to take notes on and, get a exact feel for what was going on.
Right.
Because essentially we see Steven and what is her name? His like new mistress.
I don't know if she's ever named.
Well, that's Donna's little sister.
It is?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken.
Now you're blowing my mind.
Yeah, because she's the one that there's that scene in the original where she's doing she's playing the piano while Leland's dancing and singing.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe that's her. Anyway,
well, and the other time that we saw her was when Donna steals her bike, and then Doc Hayward walks in, and he's like, yeah. "Where's your sister?" And she's like, "She stole my bike."
I forgot about that.
Worst secret keeper of all time.
Yeah. So yeah, we see them they're up against a tree, sitting there, and Steven is strung out.
Ooh, yeah.
Gun in hand, and she's trying to comfort him. She has her arm around him, and she's trying to calm him down. Mm-hmm. Because and this is again why I apologize in advance, because it was very hard to make out all the dialogue. I think she says at one point, "What did they give you?" Or what did she give you, or something like that.
Yeah.
Whatever drug he's on is really fucking with him.
Yeah.
And this is what I was a little confused on, is because he talks about somebody's going to approach them in the woods. And is that right? He says something like someone's going to pop up and he needs to have his gun ready.
Not to my knowledge. I see. I did watch it with subtitles on.
Oh, okay.
And it was mainly him saying stuff like I can't believe I did this, and
oh, that's right. Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Lil Hayward was saying like, no, you didn't do it, she did it, and then he's like, no, fuck that, it was me,
Mm-hmm.
I did it. And then he starts saying something like, are you gonna come with me when I go up there? And she's like, no, and you're not going either.
Mm-hmm.
And then he starts freaking out, more so than he already is.
Mm-hmm.
And he says something along the lines of, I'm a high school graduate. And then he like starts cocking the gun.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, no, like don't do this. And that's around the time that Mark Frost starts walking by with his dog.
Okay, I'm sorry. I think I'm starting to piece together what's going on.
Yeah, it essentially he's just so strung out. He's thinking he's gonna all his options left are to end it is in his brain.
So, do you think that they killed Shelley, or he killed Shelley?
Oh, excuse me.
I mean, that's because you're right. Like when I was listening to it, that was something that I picked up was. Did I write it down? Yeah, like I don't know. It kind of sounded like they killed someone, so I was like, what is happening? And to me, and now like hearing you explain it again, like to have Mark Frost come up, like maybe he thought, oh no, somebody knows I'm here.
Yeah,
and maybe him saying, are you gonna go with me when I go up there? Maybe that he was going to the Canadian border. Maybe he was trying to flee.
Well, the way I took it was, are you gonna kill yourself with me? Is how I took it.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And then, because like after she says, like she won't, like that she's not going and he shouldn't either. He says like, maybe when I'm there, I'll see you there. And then he's like, no, he's like, I can't like be sure that like you would even like we'd end up like in the same place is essentially what he starts saying. And then of course
right.
he says shit like, I liked fucking you and I liked your all that good old jazz.
Yeah, it's a very there's a lot of I don't know, it's pretty intense because like he has a loaded gun and he's erratic, and so they're like kissing and she's crying and he's like also like fondling her a little bit.
Yeah.
It's weird. There's a lot of emotions going on. But anyway, we see her as soon as Mark Frost appears, she runs away like she knows what's about to happen. Like, but she runs and just kind of hides behind a tree, and the camera's still on her, and then we hear a gunshot.
Yeah.
And at that point, we don't know who got shot, but we then see Mark Frost approaches the Carl at the trailer park and lets him know what just happened.
Yeah.
Or at least he was like, it was up on the trail, so it sounds like Steven killed himself.
Yeah.
So that, that's unfortunate, but I wish I had a little bit more context as to what's going on with them.
So why do you believe that he might have killed Shelley?
I don't know. Just for him to be saying like, she did it or whatever, because we did see he was abusive to her.
Or do you mean Becky? Is that who you mean?
Oh, sorry. Gosh, did I say Shelley? Yeah, Becky.
Okay.
Oh man, yeah, Becky. Sorry. Oh no, that would have been awful if it was Shelley.
Yeah, that's why I was like, whoa.
Should we do an overdub of the podcast of like every time I say Shelley, Becky?
It's like a
poorly,
like a really poor Becky.
All right, apologies, everyone. So yeah, I mean Becky, because we did see that Steven was abusive to her when he was high, like very intensely, and he, I don't know, she upset him maybe because I mean the last time we saw her, she was blasting holes into Lil Hayward's apartment.
Yeah.
So maybe he got high and maybe thought the best way, I don't want to be in this relationship anymore, and so he figured take her out. I don't know. Do you think it's plausible, or am I full of it?
It could be.
Yeah.
I don't know.
He could also just be tweaking and
I
speaking gibberish.
I think maybe, I don't know, because like I don't know if we discussed it on the show or not, but I know that you and I had discussed like maybe when she shot into the door, when Becky shot into the door, maybe someone was in the line of fire because we didn't like exactly see. I mean we saw that it didn't hit Steven or Lil Hayward, but we didn't exactly see that it didn't hit anybody. There could have been a third person in that apartment, and
that's interesting.
And maybe it killed that person, and Steven was blaming himself.
I do think though, yeah, maybe. I do think though that if that would have happened, unless they didn't know about it, because like she had that whole sit down with Shelly and Bobby, her parents.
Yeah.
And like he was like, I'll pay for the damages
on the door.
So
yeah. And he wasn't like, you fucking killed someone. Yeah. You're right.
if they had like a heart to heart, he's like, I've killed someone before too, so I can't like
and I'm a sheriff now.
Can't blame you too much. Anyway. Yeah, so all that happens, and we now see Jimmy, James, and Freddie at the bar. At the Roadhouse.
Good old James Hurley.
James Hurley. He's always been cool.
Always.
Can we get a little taste of your favorite song?
Just you and I.
All right, that's it. All right, so I'd love to see somebody make a montage of him and like Freddie hanging out with that plane. Anyway, James or Jimmy approaches Renee, who's at one of the booths with two men and another woman, and says, "Hey Renee, it's good to see you." And Renee's husband is sitting next to her, and he's like, "What the fuck?" Like, it's like
all he says is, "Hey, it's good to see you, Renee," and just, "What the fuck?" He's like so threatened by it's good to see you.
Yeah,
that cracked me up. It was just like poor James, except I don't really feel bad for James. Unfortunately, I don't. But
why?
He's James.
But hold on, and we haven't really like heard much more about this. But at the beginning of the season, didn't someone was it Shelly that like saw him and was like he hasn't been the same since his accident?
Yeah.
So come on, you gotta have some sympathy for him. You just don't like his music. That's
well. I mean, it's that, and everything in the original series with him was not fun to watch.
He was pretty stressful. Like his version of like, I gotta like clear my head and get on the road, and he just goes to like some rich woman's house and like fixes her car and like has sex with her and like yeah,
unnecessary. Don't care.
Yeah,
I don't care. Just get out of there, James.
It's season 2, so it has its flaws. Anyway, I feel you. But anyway, Renee's husband like stands up and fucking clocks him.
Yeah.
Like, and Freddie is kind of like restrained. He's like, it doesn't seem like he wants to attack them.
Yeah.
Because as we saw in our introduction to Freddie, that he has a very strong right hand, which he wears a garden glove on.
Right. I think we should mention is ZZ Top's Sharp Dressed Man is playing on like a playlist. Like the Roadhouse man introduces it like it's a live performance, but he's like,
Yeah.
it's one of our favorite songs. He turns up the proverbial volume on it. And
Yeah.
so it's playing like on like maybe even on a record is how they're playing it. But
Yeah.
Because yeah, you're right. Freddie doesn't want to get involved because of his bulldozer hand, and
Right.
Is Renee's husband named?
I don't think so. At least I'm not familiar. I didn't look it up, but no, I don't think it's said. But yeah, Renee's kind of like, knock it, like stop, like you're. It's not like you're killing him,
Yeah.
but she's like, knock it off.
Yeah, and Freddie approaches, and he just goes like, "Oi!" And the guy turns to him and he's like, "What the fuck do you want?" And Freddie, the motion of it is so funny to me, and it's kind of hard to explain. But he doesn't like throw a punch really. He just sort of like raises his arm up, and there's like a gunshot sound. And the music skips and stops playing for just a brief second, and the guy's just like on the ground, just fucked up. And then he like turns to like the guy's friend and does the same thing to him, and they're just both laying on the ground, just fucked.
It's just a short arm punch. It's just like a quick little like, like when you slug bug someone, when you drive, you see a Volkswagen, you just give them a little tap on the arm.
I wouldn't even exactly say it's that. He like raises his arm, but it's not like fully extended. It's like he just kind of
it's like he just drops it.
Yeah. He half extends his arm and then just sort of like is like, oh.
Yeah. Yeah, and it knocks him down, and it looks like Renee's husband starts having a seizure.
Yeah.
And yeah, Jimmy's like, I'm so sorry. Like, that's where I kind of felt bad for him. I'm like, oh man, like this is like, and we should also mention that Renee is like the girl that he loves, right? And she obviously has feelings for him too, because she is crying when he's singing his classic hit record.
Yeah.
That like everybody in Twin Peaks knows. You know what I mean? Like that's funny to me that it's like it's a cult hit around there.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where it ends off, right?
Yeah.
So we don't know what's going on with that. And towards the end of this episode, our episode, I'd like to we'll spit some theories about what's going on, maybe with Freddie and stuff.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And we see him again, so I guess we can talk about it then.
Yeah.
But we cut to Duncan Todd sitting in his office, and he calls an associate in, and as this is happening, Duncan Todd's face just gets blown right off.
And it's like, if anybody watches the Eric Andre show, there's a skit where Eric Andre and Hannibal are like, they have to, it's like a test your might thing, and they're like pressing a button, and then all of a sudden both of their heads explode. But like, before they explode, you can tell it's like a fake head. Like, and that's what we saw with Duncan. Like, half of his head gets blown away, but like you can obviously tell it's fake. And I appreciated that. I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah, it was real good. It got me. Like I was not expecting it. And then the same thing happens to his associate, except his associate gets shot in the chest, and then it's revealed that it's Chantel. And she walks out and picks up her phone and she says, "Hey, honey." And then there's a slight pause, and she goes, "Fries with extra ketchup."
Mm-hmm.
Which is exactly what I would expect her to order.
You got to think, being a hitman and just eating awful doesn't sound like it adds up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You got to get some nutrition. You got to be energized. You got to be on your toes. But hey, if they can do it, more power to them, right?
Yeah. As she's leaving the room, though, we hear like a man like stuttering to breathe, and apparently she didn't quite finish off Duncan Todd's crony. So she goes back, turns around, shoots him again, and leaves.
Yeah. I not to cut you off, but if we're following sequentially, we should also mention that in Vegas we saw the FBI agents bring in a Mr. and Mrs. Jones, supposed to be Dougie and Janie E, and they brought in the wrong
Yes,
one. Of course. We knew that was going to happen, right?
Oh yeah, it was pretty funny. I love that guy. I want to know what is that guy's name?
The angry FBI
yeah,
agent.
because his buddy is Wilson, but I don't know what his name is.
Yeah.
He's like he might be he's up there with the Fusco trio and the Mitchum brothers for me.
No, definitely, yeah. He's very upset. So yeah, we just see that, and that's kind of all we get from that. But following that, we see. I think, yeah, this kind of jumps around a little bit. I think we're back in Twin Peaks at this point, and we're at the sheriff's station, the jail, right?
Yeah.
And we see James and Freddie get brought in, and they get locked up. And I think we hear, does Hawk tell him, or maybe it's Truman, that tells them that the two guys are in like critical condition?
Yeah, because James asks how they are, and Hawk says they're in critical condition.
Yeah, I thought it was because it's Hawk and Bobby that lock him up, right?
Yeah.
And I thought that was, I don't know, it was kind of funny because in the original run, there's that scene where Bobby and Mike Nelson are in the cage or in the cell, sorry, not cage. And James is in the other one, and they want to kill James, you know? And so it was just a funny contrast to see like Bobby being the one that's locking James up.
Right.
Because Bobby was always the bad boy, and James is the one that we thought was, good. But I think James is still good.
Oh, yeah.
It's just, Freddie's got that power glove. But anyway, he power. Yeah, I think that we should just start calling Freddie the Glove. I mean, we got the arm, we got the giant,
and the glove.
The glove.
Well, I mean, the giant is the fireman, as far as
the
as
fireman,
far as we know
now.
Right. Let me spit something at you though.
Yeah.
Do you think maybe Nadine got her abilities the same way that Freddy did?
Wow. That's an interesting theory, because the way that they described it in the original run is she had just extra adrenaline,
Yeah.
right? So, yeah, that's a good point. It very well could be. I wouldn't cross that off by any means.
Right. I haven't finished Secret History of Twin Peaks, and maybe there's something like that in there, but
yeah, that's a good theory. Okay, and this is kind of what I wanted to get into. And this kind of goes off of a theory that I saw online, or it was more of a meme, but somebody was like, Twin Peaks has to end with Freddy and Evil Coop arm wrestling each other.
I love that.
That was pretty good. But to kind of go off of that, I do think that Freddy and James are there for a reason. I think they're there to protect Kaido.
Yeah.
Is that her name?
Nido.
Nido,
Yeah.
sorry, Nido. At least that's what because like James is like intrigued. Like that's the last thing we see before that scene cuts, is like he looks over at Nido and is like, like what the hell?
Yeah.
Gordon Cole voice.
What the hell?
So, but at least that's what I took from it. I think that Freddy is obviously, I mean, he's supposed to be in Twin Peaks, and as we know from when Andy rescued, and I guess the other boys, but Andy kind of did all the work, when they rescued Nido, she's important, and there's people trying to hurt her.
Right.
So, I don't know. I think Freddy's going to play an important role in protecting her. But that's my theory.
I like it.
Yeah. So yeah, now we're back to Jennifer Jason Leigh and Tim Roth. I apologize for anyone listening. I can't, even if I like knew their character names off the top. They're just the actors
Right.
to me.
And I just learned Tim Roth's name from this episode. He's Hutch.
Yeah, Hutch, and what's her name again?
Chantel.
You just said it. Chantal. Hutch and Chantal. Okay, I'll do a better job with that. So they're eating more fast food in the car. And I don't know if you said this, but as she's leaving, when she said, fries with extra ketchup, she says 1 down, 1 to go.
Yep.
Okay, I don't know if you had mentioned
No,
that.
I forgot to mention that. Thank you. Because in my notes, what she was eating was more important.
Right.
Classic Chantal. I'm glad that you wrote down the important thing.
Yeah, so we see them, they're kind of like staking out. They're like in a van and they're eating, and one of my favorite pieces of dialogue was like Tim Ross, like, they tell each other they love each other, and then he's like, beautiful night, and then it just cuts to like the night sky, and there's like maybe like 1 or 2 stars.
Yeah.
It's just very dark out.
And if I'm not mistaken, there's like a tree obscuring their view also.
Yeah.
Like it's like covering most of the moon.
Yeah. Very subtle but funny. And then, she kind of like points at one of the stars and was like, that's Mars.
Yeah.
And that cuts away.
Well, one of my favorite pieces of dialogue in there was he's talking about, he's like, the government does it and they don't get condemned for it. I mean, like, we're no different than them. He's like, it might as well be thou shalt kill.
Right. Yeah. Trying to justify them being hitmen.
Yeah.
So the scene that follows, and this kind of makes me think that maybe there's a reason why it cuts this way, but it cuts from them staking out in the van to Dougie at home.
Mm-hmm.
And he is, I'll kind of just quickly sum up this scene, but he's at home eating cake. And I was going to ask you if you got this piece of dialogue, because this seemed very important, but he's eating cake, and he's kind of he moves like the salt shaker at one point, and then he turns on the TV, and we don't know if anything's like guiding him to do that. Like, we don't see from his point of view if there's like a glow on it, like as we saw before when he's filling out the paperwork.
Yeah.
When Mike was like guiding him. And we don't know if that was the case, but anyway, he turns on the TV and there's an older film on, and I didn't look up what it was from, but there's a piece of something happens, either a character says something or
so
there's someone in the background. Yeah, do you want to explain this, because I missed this?
So it was an old movie. I don't know if it was a real movie or if it was something that they shot for this, but at first, like, he keeps eating his cake, and the girl says something about we're getting the old team back together, and he kind of like looks a little bit intrigued but keeps eating his cake, and then one of the guys on the show says, get Gordon Cole, and Coop immediately looks up and just like starts pressing the remote, and it almost seems like he woke up right then and there.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. Like, it was the most like aha moment that he's had, because we kind of saw it before when he's at the is he at the police station, or is he's still in his office, but when him and Janie E are like out in the lobby area or the waiting room,
and he sees the shoes and the American flag. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. And he looks at the electrical socket too. Mm-hmm. And so, like he's, I mean, the whole series is him having these little moments, but that, I agree, that seemed like he almost woke up, if not. But the thing, the thing about it is he then hears like the electrical buzzing from the nearby electrical socket from right by the TV, mm-hmm. in what's currently happening. And he takes his fork and decides to put it in the socket. He at first tries to put like the 3 prongs of the fork in there, but realizes that won't work, so then takes the handle and puts it in there, and that like lights up the room and electrocutes him, and Janie E like starts screaming.
Right. Well, we don't know what happens to him, because we don't see him. We just see the light of it flashing on Janie E and her screaming.
Yeah, it is very mysterious as to what happens. The reason why I said it, I think he got electrocuted, is just because like like right before like the big white flash, or like during it, it kind of seems like he like jumps back. There was just a quick cut of him like jumping back or something like that. So I'm assuming he got electrocuted, but maybe not. We really don't know, because obviously he came through the socket.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows? Who knows?
Do you think maybe he went through the socket again, and that's why?
That no, I did think that too. That could be. Maybe. What I'm afraid of is like maybe he had that aha moment, and then he just like fried his brain again. You know?
Yeah.
That'd be terrible.
Yeah.
He was just back at square one. So yeah, that was a crazy scene. So I'm really curious to see what's happening there. I mean, we have 3 episodes left, so I feel like we got to find out hopefully next week.
Right.
But who knows?
Yeah. After all that Dougie Coop business, we're back in Twin Peaks, and Lucy lets Hawk know that Margaret Letterman is on the line. And when Hawk answers, the first thing that she says is, "I'm dying." But among the things that she says, "You know about death. It's just a change, not an end." And then she says, "Watch for that one, the one that I told you about under Blue Pine Mountain." And then once again, she says, "I'm dying." And she's like, "Good night, Hawk." And he says,
Yeah.
"Goodbye, Margaret."
Yeah. One other thing she says is, "My log is turning gold. The wind is moaning. I'm dying."
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how she phrases it. And I mean, to anyone familiar, she actually is dying, like when she filmed that, and so it just adds a lot of weight to the scene, and it's a little hard to watch.
Right.
But man, what a great performance! Like, what a great final performance to have. And just like to have, like, for her to have that, I don't know, the courage to film that, and like to trust David Lynch and like Mark Frost to like do that scene and be that vulnerable is like, I mean, it obviously adds so much to the series. So
Yeah.
A great scene.
Yeah, definitely.
What do you think she is referring to though? The one that I told you about, the one under the moon on Blue Pine Mountain. Do you think that's Evil Coop?
I would imagine so. If not, it could be another Black Lodge spirit.
Yeah.
Maybe the Woodsman.
Yeah.
Those are my theories.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I probably think Evil Coop, but it very well could be someone else.
Right.
Because I have a feeling that some Woodsman type figures are gonna be popping up in Twin Peaks.
Yeah.
I've kind of already, but then again, I don't know. I don't know if they're like, if it's more of a geographical thing with them.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
Because obviously in like South Dakota, right?
Yeah.
And that's where we've seen them.
Well,
so
but
maybe,
I mean, where were they when they were at? Where's the convenience store at? That can't be too far from Twin Peaks if Richard followed him all the way over there, right?
Oh, that's a good point. So yeah, maybe they can pop up in other places.
Yeah.
Who knows? All right. So then, yeah, there's a very touching scene in the sheriff's office afterwards where Hawk announces that Margaret had just passed.
Right. And I love this because Sheriff Truman is sitting there and he's looking at like Google Images and he's just like looking at pictures of fish. And I'm not sure what the significance was or what the hell he was doing, but
well, I mean, from his conversation with Doc Hayward, he's
a fisherman.
He's into fish. Yeah. So, but yeah, you know, he takes off his hat and like Lucy sheds a tear, and it's again another touching scene. Just when you know the context of, you know, real life too.
Yeah. Yeah, very touching scene in memory of Kathleen Coulson, I believe was the Log Lady's actress. Yeah. So after that, we move on to our good old friends, Charlie and Audrey. And I love how often Charlie reiterates that he's very tired.
He's in this episode. I knew you were gonna catch that too because that cracked me up. Does he say he's sleepy or he's tired?
He says sleepy.
I'm very sleepy. I don't know.
I'm so sleepy.
I don't know what's going on with him. He's always so tired. But yeah.
He has deadlines.
Yep.
And all this paperwork.
Yep. Yeah. So he has his coat on. They're about to leave. She's like, "Oh, you got your coat on, so we are leaving." And yeah, they kind of have this back and forth. And he's like, "Okay, I'm taking my coat off because."
Yeah. But because in his what he's saying is like, he's like, "I've got my coat on. We're gonna go see if Billy's at the Roadhouse."
Yeah.
And she doesn't have her coat on yet, and she's like, "Can you just stop complaining for a second?" And he's like, "I'm 1 second away from taking my coat off and saying we're not going at all."
Yeah.
And so she keeps like berating him, and he's like, "No, fuck this," and he takes off his jacket, and he goes and sits back down. But what happens after this kind of mirrors something that we've seen already in The Return. So Charlie goes back over and like sits on the couch, and she like lunges at him and starts choking him.
Yeah.
And says like, "You need to like stop being so selfish." And I mean, like, it's not out of character for Audrey to really be acting out like that. I don't believe anyway.
Yeah.
Because she's doing it for something she believes in.
That's true.
What's kind of spooky about it is that we've seen Richard do the same thing to Audrey's mother, and maybe that's just learned behavior from his mother. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a very good point. That's a good observation. I didn't really think about that. Wow. I can't help but feel like, and after seeing all the scenes with Audrey, I can't help but feel like she has some sort of trauma after the bomb
Definitely.
incident. I think
Yeah.
maybe she suffers with introversion, and like she has like anxiety with going outside afterwards.
Yeah.
I think maybe that's where a lot of those arguments with Charlie spawn from. But I don't know. But I agree with you. I think maybe after, it really messed her up, the whole bomb experience, and maybe she kind of changed a bit, and then, raising Richard, he kind of picked up on some of those things.
Yeah.
And if our theory is correct that Scale Coop is is Richard's father, then she's danced with the devil. You know what I mean? So like maybe some of Scale Coop is rubbed off on her too.
Literally and figuratively.
Yes. Scale Coop's a greasy dude. But yeah, so she just is like choking him and says she hates him. And then kind of to wrap up the episode, we're back at the Roadhouse. There's two bikers that approach a girl who's alone at a booth. They pick her up and move her onto the floor.
But she says, "I'm waiting for someone." And then these two biker guys just pick her up and just set her on the ground.
Because apparently that's the reaction when someone's hogging a booth. You just pick them up and move them.
I've done it before.
Yeah.
It's a regular thing.
So yeah, she starts crawling onto the floor and crying, and she's like crawling to the middle of the dance floor, and then once she gets there, just like screams, and that's how the episode ends.
Yeah, and so the credits roll as the music kind of fades out, and it's the like apartment complex or the motel complex that we saw Philip Jeffries in.
Yeah.
And it's silent, and then in the last second or so, it flips, and I wasn't entirely sure where the setting was when it flipped at the end there.
Yeah, I don't know.
I thought maybe it was the Palmer residence, but I couldn't be sure.
Oh.
I wasn't entirely positive of what it showed at the very end there, but
yeah. That's a good theory, because I mean there was all that wrestling going on, and when Hawk approached Sarah.
Yeah.
That actually brings me to one theory or like one thing I kind of wanted to talk about before we wrap this up. Do you think that Sarah could be the mother experiment type thing, or like the creature that we saw, that like appeared in the box that killed the two in the penthouse at the beginning of the season?
That's a good theory because, I mean, she essentially did the same thing that thing did to
Right.
the guy that was watching the box,
Yeah.
to the trucker guy.
Right, and that's kind of where I'm basing that off of, and like, I mean, if she, I don't know, people are saying it's the mother experiment. Obviously, she's the mother of Laura. She's had involvement with Bob, so I don't know. Maybe, and again, like it just goes back to that what we were talking about, like the grand scheme of. I mean, we knew after episode 8 how important Bob and Laura were, and how they were kind of destined to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To counterbalance each other or whatever. But now we're kind of seeing that with Sarah, I think, in a little bit. Even though we didn't see her this episode, but if that is true, if that was her house that it flicks at, and that's kind of indicating that that's where all this evil is like spawning from, or it's residing, or something.
Right.
I don't know. Also, I just want to talk about. I recommend, maybe we'll link it down below, that everybody go watch this. But somebody synced up the Woodsman's in episode 8 when he takes over the radio station.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't talked to you about this. I sent you the link. I don't know if you watched it, but
I did. Yeah. Where I saw it on Reddit, I think is where I saw it.
But yeah, they synced up the Woodsman's speech. Once he takes over the radio station, with the scene of Sarah Palmer like alone in her house when has like the boxing match on loop.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially every time that the boxing match glitches out, the Woodsman, when it's synced up, and again,
the Woodsman restarts his message.
Yeah, and when he says like this is the water, she takes a drink, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I don't know if that's indicating to us that it is Sarah Palmer at the end of episode 8. We'd love to hear what you guys think about that, but it's again crazy because there's multiple scenes now that are like that sync up in some sort of way, whether it's like timeline or the movements of the characters, just the smallest details. It's all kind of adding up, and it's amazing to see.
Right. It's almost mind-boggling that you can build a show like that, and I think that's just a testament to not just David Lynch, but everyone involved in the project, and maybe almost a new way to view television, because you can't really say the same for anything else that is on TV right now.
Right. It definitely feels like the start of a new frontier that they've done with this show, for sure.
Yeah, and nothing else is invites you to go and look at something from a previous episode and see if it matches up with this episode. Like that's really unique, and I like that a lot.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's one of the best parts, as we've said before, is like just like being able to do this and like have hour-long discussions about it and trying to talk about the themes, because we could even like, and this is just us trying to figure out the story, like if we wanted to do like a philosophical breakdown, or talk about the elements of like the story of like the literature side of it, like we could approach it from so many different angles, and this is us just trying to like figure out the story. So that, I don't know, that's really cool to me.
Mm-hmm.
That's my favorite kind of work. So I mean, do you have any other final closing thoughts? Any other theories or anything you wanted to bring up?
Not exactly. Something about the credit sequence. I think that how that flipped, like right at the end, that kind of made me think of a few episodes ago when it was Big Ed for the credit sequence,
Yeah.
and his reflection did the same thing.
Yeah.
It just jump cut it. It would be interesting to see if maybe that leads into anything, or if we see Big Ed again at all, because I feel like, his arc is kind of wrapped up in a nice bow. Which, I mean, it was short, but it was sweet. Like I said,
Indeed.
if that was all we got for the return, I would be satisfied. So, the other thing I wanted to mention was with Philip Jeffries.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that Judy might be the lady that let him in? I feel like that would be kind of dumb, but she was.
That's what I thought at first too. Like, that was the first thought that jumped into my mind. But now that you said the whole Briggs thing, I'm like, I don't know. I'm almost sticking with that maybe.
Yeah.
So
no, I like that theory a lot too.
Yeah.
But I like this show is always like that. You never know what's gonna go on.
Yep. I'm very excited. I'm happy. Even if we didn't get Bowie before he unfortunately passed, I'm happy. Again, like the way that Mark Frost and David Lynch have like incorporated all the characters that have passed and just added so much, like making sure that they're huge and like substantial in the story is, it's great because it further just solidifies their legacy. So I'm
Right.
sad that the show's going to be ending soon, but it's amazing to me how perfect it's all been at this point.
Yeah, it's definitely been a real fun ride. I've really enjoyed it.
Yep. But with that, today is the day of the eclipse, and as we are recording this, we'll be seeing it here pretty soon. So
Yeah.
we're gonna go check that out.
Yeah, hopefully it's like the TV show Heroes, and the first season, I should say, not any of the rest of it, because the rest of it was garbage. But hopefully, some people get some unique abilities. Hopefully, there's no serial killers on the loose, and a good time.
Agreed. All right.
See ya.
That's it.
Thanks again for watching, everybody. My name is Vinny. We appreciate all the feedback. Also, let us know if there was something we missed in the episode, or if you have any theories or anything you'd like to share with us. Leave it in the comments below.
And we will speak to you next week. Take care.
Yeah. Bye-bye. I'm going to love you. I'm going to miss you.